Welcome to the 9th Piano Podcast. It's been 9 months already. That's crazy. My perception of time has flown by. And I say it that way because we each can construct our own perception of time and how we experience time. For example, on my spreadsheet, the way I track my year, the way I track my months are in 4 7-day increments, which gives me 13 months. And I am in my 13th month. And I'll save what I've learned this entire year for the next podcast. But for this one, I just kind of want to go over perception. And what I strive to do with these podcasts is to shine a light on a different way of seeing things. And more fundamentally than that, to show a process of thinking, how I extract data and wisdom. I was training a friend yesterday, and the way I like to train is, even though I may know the answer or know where to find the answer, I don't like to give it. And I can see the frustration sometimes when I train people, when I do that. But what I'm really trying to do is to get them to critically think. If you come across something like this, how do you go about thinking to find that answer? Because if I can teach you how to think, it doesn't matter what the situation is, you'll have a bag of troubleshooting methods. And that to me is more powerful than just giving you the answers or even showing you where the answer is at, because what the answer is and where the answer is at pertains only to the thing that you were asking about. Yet if you have a bag, like I said, of the tools of troubleshooting, however I can properly word that, then you have learned the ability to troubleshoot in any situation that you're at. And I think that's what Jesus Christ was doing when he was explaining that everything that I speak is in parables. Because if he gave us the answer, he gave the people that he was speaking to the answer, it would only pertain to the time and place that he was giving the answer to. Versus being a parable, that's more of an everlasting piece of wisdom. And there's a few parables that he doesn't specifically say as parables that I've been able to be like, all right, I finally get it. Or I get a perception of it. He says he talks in parables, and yet we don't treat his whole story as a parable. Some of us take it too literal. And we then put Christ on a pedestal, and then we say we could never be that. If we look at it as a parable, we can be that, because it's a parable, and we can emulate some of the things that he does in our own lives. And one of the examples of that is Christ gets tempted by Satan for 40 days. It wasn't a year, it wasn't a month, it was 40 days. Therefore, if you can overcome temptation for 40 days, and granted the story I believe, depicts it as 40 days straight. But if you're able to do it just 40 times, 40 days, overcome temptation, then you are able to emulate Christ in a micro way, in a microscopic way. When you look at tempt as the root word, it's to be allured to do something that is unwise, wrong, or immoral. Yeah, there's a lot of moral things that we can do that are unwise. For example, staying in bed even though you fully rested and there's a beautiful day to be enjoyed, regardless of the weather. See, the uninspired roll out of bed like a door that creaks on its hinges, and the inspired spring out. What could you incorporate in your day to help you just spring out of bed? And maybe you're not qualified to answer that question yet, because first you have to overcome the 40 days of temptation. And then you get to have fun with it. Then you get to say, you know what? I've pushed past the ideology of having to be motivated to get out of bed, and I just did it. Now, what would really spring me out of bed now that I've passed that governing system in my mind? The other thing that he didn't describe as a parable yet, let's look at it as a parable, is Jesus healing the blind. Now we take that as a literal story. He performed a miracle. The dude that could never see can now see. Yeah, how do we do that in our world, in our times? Well, if you ever give a new paradigm, a new perception, a new perspective to someone, and it helps them see and it helps them take on the world in a whole new way. Start singing Aladdin, right? You've helped them see. If you're able to help someone see their potential that you can see, but they're not able to see, you've helped a blind man see, a blind woman. And let's look at the cripple, the paralytic, where Jesus was able to help the paralyzed walk. And we have that saying in English, helping someone get back on their feet. And people get knocked down, whether it be losing their job, a heartbreak, or anything that just knocks them down. And if you're able to help them get back on their feet, you performed a micro miracle. The last one that took me maybe like last month to really finally dissect and be able to really use it. Because as a kid, I was just thinking, man, was he just magically regenerating bread to feed the 4,000? But if we take the name away and we just look at a man who's able to multiply 7 loaves of breads and feed 4,000, who is he in that story? The hero. The hero provides never-ending food. He's able to take a little and turn it into a lot. As a marketer, you have to take $100 of expense into ads and turn it into revenue. Performing miracles there, man. I've coached this in a different industry where these group of people have this complex where they think they need to have more to make more. And granted, if you have more, you can make more. But if you don't have the risk management in place, you're going to lose it all. So here is someone that can take a little and turn it into a lot. Make the most out of what you have, and it'll make the most out of you. You make the space, and the space makes you. You shape the tools, and the tools shape you. Look at phones. Humans made phones, but look how much phones shape us, have shaped us, continue to shape us. And so Jesus goes to the other side of town, and he sends his disciples back. And he sends them back with one piece of loaf. And he tells them, don't pick up loaf from the 2 towns that you're going to pass. And I have yet to study what those 2 towns mean to us. But when I get to that wisdom in my life, I'll make sure to include it in one of the podcasts. And the disciples say, well, we only have 1 loaf. And this is kind of where I think Jesus shows frustration. Because he asks them, how many loaves did it take to feed 4,000? And they say 7. And then he asks, how many leftover baskets did you have? And they say 12 leftover baskets. Who knows how many loaves that is? And he says, do you not see? Do you not believe? Is your hearts so hardened? Doesn't take a lot to make a lot. Make the most out of what you have, and it'll make the most out of you. And when you're able to make a lot from a little, what that does to your character, to your persona, to who you are, doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, how many times you fail, because you'll be able to get back up every single time. Sometimes with some help by someone else performing a miracle, helping you get back up on your feet. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I was a little all over the place. But hopefully, you're you're able to pick up on some gems there. Something you can implement. For we can perform micro miracles every day, just by showing up, living life, becoming the best we can be. Thank you for watching, listening, sharing, liking, subscribing. Have a beautiful summer.